Hey, what's up guys? So today I'm just going to talk to you about the new Sony FX30 and how it compares to the Sony A7C. So the new Sony FX30, I think the reason why this is such a big deal is it's an APS-C camera that can do everything that the FX3 does. So what I wanted to do is just compare this a little bit to the Sony A7C because I think these cameras are actually really similar. There's one camera that I still think that's best, and so that's why I just kind of wanted to review a few things so you can just have a better idea of what camera you should choose. So the newest and greatest things with the FX30 is obviously you're going to get 10-bit video, which for a lot of people that's really important. And I mean, as a professional filmmaker, 10-bit video is important, even though not everyone is going to notice that, but I feel like it is important if you are going the pro route. Now, you are going to get not just 10-bit, you can start doing using time code to your advantage. You're actually going to get better ergonomics, and this is probably the best thing about this camera that I like. I have the Sony A7C here. It just, if you look at it, it doesn't have the best ergonomics on it. It's just got this little tiny lip here for your fingers. But if you have small hands, or if you're just using this camera with a camera strap or like a bag that you can easily grab, like you don't really need the ergonomics because you're just going to be using it for a few seconds anyways. But you also get the smaller lenses. So with APS-C, you're going to get a whole lot smaller kit in general. Now this camera is probably a little bit heavier than the A7C, but you're just going to get a lot smaller lenses with it. Unless with the A7C you go like the Rokinon route and you go get the 35mm 2.8, or you get the 45mm 1.8, you can get a lot of really small lenses with the A7C. I know the kit lens is really small, but for me, like that's not really that great of a lens. But then they also have like a whole lot of other full frame lenses that you can get that are just smaller. So I feel like you don't really win in like the small and lightweight category. I feel like both cameras are both going to be like equally good, according to like which camera is the lightest. And then you're going to get active stabilization, which the A7C doesn't have, but both cameras have the gyro data. So if you wanted to use some sort of stabilization, you still have that function, but you're still going to have the active stabilization with the FX30, which is pretty sweet deal. And then with the FX30, you're getting the same 4K or 6K downsample to 4K, so you're getting like a similar resolution, but now you can shoot in 60 frames per second at 4K, which is like a huge upgrade for the A7C. If you think that's an upgrade, for me personally, I feel like, I mean, I do a lot of these videos in 1080p, and I feel like they're completely fine for YouTube, or just for if you're not doing like professional work. I feel like 1080p is like totally fine. The FX30 is just like your more professional route. So if you want to get started and go the professional route, I feel like it's a great camera to have. But I personally would say that for me, I still think the A7C is just a better camera because I prefer full frame. Now, I am not a professional cinematographer, and I don't do any professional work like weddings or any commercial work. So for me, having the A7C and I have the A7 IV, I think both these cameras are really good. A7 IV is like better than what I need, but I'm not doing professional level video. So for me, the A7C, I feel like I can get by just fine with it. And I just don't like APS-C sensors. I feel like if you're going to use like a smaller sensor size, I want to go really small and do like 1 inch. For me, I don't think there's like a huge reason to go with the FX30 unless you definitely want to get in that pro route and learn everything you can possibly learn about professional cameras or cinema lines. Maybe you want to get a job as a cinematographer, or go into video as your full-time career. FX30 is probably a better way to go unless you really need that full frame low light sensor. That's why I like having a full frame sensor. I love that it has low light. I love that it has better background blur. And then there's just a whole lot better lenses. The FX30 is great, but why not just get if you're doing the professional route, why not just get the FX3? And so that's why I still think it's just better to go with the A7C. It has the new menu, which for me, the new menu doesn't really matter because I thought the old one was just fine. It's all about, for me, it's just all about memorizing the menu. And the main reason I don't care that much about the FX30 is just because it's a smaller sensor. When you have a smaller sensor, you get more noise, and I feel I shoot a lot of stuff in low light, or I do like astrophotography work. It seems like I'm always doing like dark locations, so that's why it doesn't really appeal to me. I love the low light sensor of the A7C, so that's why I would say if you're really into professional work, just go with the FX3. And then another reason to buy the A7C is it has an EVF. So if you decide like you're not just interested in video, but you also do photography, it has an EVF, which can be really helpful if you're doing any manual focus or landscapes. And I've used the Sony A7C for so many different scenarios. I've done landscape photography with it. I've done wedding photography, and then I've done a whole lot of video just on YouTube and other platforms, and it's totally fine for what I need. I'm currently shooting on the A7 IV, and I don't really need the 10-bit video or the 4K or any of these really good professional features. I feel like I can get by totally with the Sony A7C. And I feel like photography today, we're making these small increments that may seem really big every time there's a new camera, like, oh, this is huge, like I have all these new features, but I feel like these are very incremental. And for me, like a huge change to photography would be like having like way better stabilization, like what GoPro is doing, what the iPhone is doing, or if we had a better way to send our photos or videos to our phones so we can upload them quicker, or get them on our computer quicker. To me, that's what I'm interested in. I wish there was some way to make mirrorless or full frame camera more like an iPhone or a smartphone. And I feel like that just hasn't come yet, and that's what I'm waiting for. So all these like incremental changes, like having the ability to do 10-bit or 4K 60, like that's not that important to me. And I feel like we've already received a lot of that with the invention of eye autofocus, but right now there's just not a whole lot for new camera updates. So I'm totally fine with shooting with my A7C and A7 IV, and I'll probably continue to use both these cameras for now. I still use the A7C as a backup camera, and I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fence about selling it or keeping it. I think both these cameras are great, but for me, there's just no reason to upgrade to the FX30 unless you're like going down the professional route and you're a beginner. But I feel like this is kind of odd because I feel like most beginners who just can't afford the FX3 should just go for a more beginner lens, which would be the A7C, and so they can learn how to do editing and learn how to use LUTs and learn how to do color correction and video work with like an older camera. Like I feel like you don't need to do this unless you're already professional level, and and at that point just go with the FX3. So if you're a pro, I would say get the FX3, and if you're a beginner looking to be pro, I would just say get the A7C. It's a full frame camera, and then when you become pro, you can use those full frame lenses on the FX3. So anyway, I hope you like this video. Definitely like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.